Untitled Podcast with your host, Bruce Outreach, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Hey everybody, how we doing today? Welcome to another edition of the Untitled Podcast. This is episode number 1175. And this is an interesting team today. This is one we've never done before. As you know, this month we are talking about getting into business in the trucking industry, whether that be owner operator, school, something like that. Today we're going to talk about franchising a school. Okay, so that's something we've talked about for a long time. But we're going to talk with John Parker today. Now, John is the director of franchising for Driving Academy. SCLDrivingacademy.com. They're in the States. They're based in Redmond, New Jersey, but actually he lives in Cincinnati. I talked to him. And they're the only franchise CDL driving school in the U.S. So I thought this was pretty interesting. As you know, here in Canada, we've had a real problem with schools popping up that are not doing things on board. They're charging someone $300, $700 to take a test, and the person can't get a job. They're not paying the property, the person gets like 2 weeks on the road and all that. They're going around taking multiple people in the truck, taking money and they're not finishing the course. All kinds of stuff going on in the industry. Popping bills, and that's got to stop. In the pandemic, we went from, I don't know the exact stat, but we went up to 200 schools in Ontario, and there was, I think, something like 50 before that. So, things have gone really, really well. So, this is a mistake. But it's going to apply the same year. There may be some differences as far as curriculum and how you register a school and all that. What's it take to start at school? You know, within a franchise, we get the Tim Hortons, we get McDonald's, we get the Burger King, where you just flip a switch and have it all set up and you go. Some of those are very successful. Yeah, schools are successful. You know, most schools struggle, and I know a lot of successful schools. So what's it? Well, John's going to straighten all that out for us today. Great interview. Did this from, I was in Ironing Board Studios in the islands when we did this, so it's a bit remote, but it's going to be a good one. So let's get into it here. Let me tell you about Bison Transport before we get started. Bison is one of the largest carriers in Canada, and they are also one of the safest carriers in Canada. But I know a lot of people like to rebuke that and say, no, we've seen them. You know what, folks? They ran in 2023, they won the Safest Freight Award. They have what they call the Right to Decide program, which allows the drivers to decide what they need to stop. Whether it's for illness, for weather-related, it doesn't matter where it is, they have the right to decide. And that ties into their safety bonus, which they pay quarterly. And some drivers are making 15% above their salary in safety bonuses because of this right to decide program. So check out all the opportunities with Bison Transport at bisondriving.com. They have locations all throughout Canada and the US, so you can certainly go there and find out what is going on. All right, let's get on to this. Right after this, we're going to be on the line with John. All right, everybody, on the line I have John Parker, currently in Cincinnati, but I think from New Jersey originally, isn't it, John?
Nope, originally from Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our company, Driving Academy, is based in New Jersey, but yeah, okay. I'm originally from Ohio.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad you reached out. I know you reached out just before Christmas, and we were moving, and you were moving around. But tell us your background. How long have you been in the trucking industry? What's your role today in the schools?
Well, I am the director of franchising for Driving Academy.
Right.
We decided we were going to franchise the company about 1.5 years ago, 2 years. And so we have 2 locations open, another 11 in process, everywhere from Portland to Florida to Brooklyn. So,
wow.
I had my CDL when I was younger, when all you had to do was go get your chauffeur's license and somebody to hire you.
The good old days.
Yeah. And I've worked with several different companies. I've had trucking companies as clients, and Jonathan and I met and decided this would be a good partnership. for me to come in and kind of take over the franchising portion. We wanted to make sure that we had a system and a process in place for everything before we move forward with that. So we've been around for about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
And have a great process in place for our students.
Okay, that's amazing. Now, tell us a little bit about your school. I want to get into, I'm really interested about the franchising part, but tell us about your school. I know you have truck driver training. What type of courses? In Canada, we are a 200-hour course is kind of our standard that we will. What kind of courses would you have down in the States there?
So we can really customize the program based on the students' needs. So some students are going to come in, they've already got their permit and they're ready to go. So they go straight to the yard and start with pre-trip. One of the things that we also offer is a driving simulator.
Okay.
You know, that there's the old joke about the millennial anti-theft device is a stick shift. So getting into a simulator that basically is about as close to being in a truck as you can actually get, and learning how to shift through really saves on equipment, and it's a better experience for the student. We have online portals so the students can schedule their own time to come to the school. So it's not a rigid classroom. You know, there's nobody in the front with chalk and a chalkboard.
Okay.
And really, we're open from 8 to 8 or 9 to 9. So the students don't have to quit their job to come to a CDL school. That's really the big difference between a lot of other schools and ours. And we also allow students to make a payment plan. They can get started for as little as $500. Okay. And really, the time that they come to the school is really dependent on, you know, their basic needs. If they can afford $100 a week, obviously they can come to school for longer. And they come part-time. If they can afford a lot more, they come full-time. But they can really work their schedule coming to school around their actual work schedule. So it's great for the students.
Okay, so we have a big problem in Canada, especially since the pandemic. Where do you guys have the mandatory entry level program in the States? 103 hours. Do you guys have that program?
Typically, it's going to be 120 to 160 hours.
Okay.
You know, the laws vary state to state. Some states, you know, require that the students come into a class. Some don't. So that's the nice thing about a franchise is, you know, we can really customize that for them. But yeah, in the U.S., every student or every person that wants to get a CDL now has to go to a CDL school. Right.
And we had that in Canada a few years ago. We had a big crash up called Humboldt. I don't know if you've heard about it, where it was a bus crash and a new driver. So they brought this in, and that's created its own enemy, if you will, because now we have a lot of people with one truck starting up a school, and they not really know what they're doing. They're trying to just bring in money because they think it's a quick way, and we're having more incidents on the road. So right now we're really looking at training, how it's done, who's doing it, those kind of things. Do you have that issue in the States? What's the landscape like as far as training, as far as carriers and that? Is it normal, a standard, or?
And here's the thing: for any CDL school in the United States, to be perfectly honest, no school is training you to be a driver.
Right.
What they're doing is they're training you to pass a test. It also depends on how that's done.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of schools out there that are not technically certified. They don't have their curriculum approved by the Department of Transportation or by the state. There's somebody that threw up a shingle and made a certificate, and sometimes it slides by and sometimes it doesn't. What we've done is put together a comprehensive program where you have to pass certain milestones before you get to the next one.
Okay.
So to get your permit, you have to know everything you need to know to get your permit. You can't go through and slide by. We also set up our franchisees as third-party testers in states that allow it. So we even have programs where students can go in and take their test as many times as they need to pass.
Okay.
the big thing is really the amount of time people spend behind the wheel of a truck.
Yeah.
The benefit to us is we also have the simulator.
Yeah.
So, people can schedule time to come in, and if nobody's on the simulator, they can get on it and practice.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's as close to real world as you can get without actually being in a truck.
Yeah, I've seen a couple brands. I don't know when you started, John, but I started driving in '82. So I have that old school mentality of, if you don't have a shifter, if it's not, really in a truck, it's probably not work. But I did test a simulator not too long ago at one of the schools in Canada, and I have to say, I was extremely impressed and changed mindset for how real world it was and stuff. I was really impressed with. I don't know. I won't say the model. Because I don't know the different brands very well, but I was very impressed with what I saw and what I tried.
Well, we had a new franchisee come through a couple of weeks ago, and a couple from Georgia, the Atlanta area. And he got in the simulator and was driving and just shifting through the gears.
Yeah.
And he looked back at me and he said, I got everything but sixth gear.
Yeah.
And I laughed and I said, do you have a problem with that? He said, I have the same problem in a truck. I've had my CDL for 20 years. I still get screwed up going to sixth gear. He said, this is as accurate as it can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, typically there's three big screens, one right in front and one on either side. The seat moves, so it's there. But I've actually talked to people that have reached out to ask about the school.
Yeah.
Typically, I don't handle that, but I'm well versed and more than happy to talk to. It was a CDL school in the South. I won't name the school.
Right.
But she spent a grand total of 18 minutes behind the wheel of a truck.
Wow. Yeah.
They gave her her certificate and said, all right, go take your test.
Yeah.
And she said, so what's the difference between your school? And I said, well, you get more than 18 minutes for sure. We've got a driving simulator, and kind of went through all the process.
Yeah.
She actually left Florida and came to New Jersey because she had her permit.
Right.
Came to New Jersey to finish going through that part of the school. Took her test and passed it on the first time, and said it's like night and day.
Wow. Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you for getting that message across and still letting it, because that's the problem we're having. We got people who are either paying $500 and being trained exactly how to do the course, where we have other schools that are offering a 200-hour program that have everything from trip planning to map reading to communications, all of those things involved with that as well. I think this 200 hours should be just behind the wheel. I was taught by a friend of mine who I feel I got pretty good training. Yeah, he wasn't a school, but so I'm interested now in this franchising, and you just mentioned it because you mentioned the lady who I think was running a school with 18 minutes of training under her belt. So what type of person should be getting into the franchise? Is this somebody who's seasoned and wants to open a school, or is it somebody who's looking to kind of franchise themselves across the country and make cash? Who are we looking for here?
So our average owner comes out of the trucking and the logistics industries.
Right.
And we've got diverse ownership. We have people from Mexican heritage, African American heritage, a fellow who emigrated from Nigeria, a fellow that emigrated from the Ukraine. So diverse ownership is important to us. And it's really somebody who is coachable. And I'll tell you, anybody out there that's in the trucking industry can know the trucking industry incredibly well. It doesn't necessarily translate, excuse me, to owning a school, because it's like, I won't say apples to oranges, but I'll say apples to pears. It's
Right.
still crunchy. It's still got a skin, but it's still, so it's somebody that's maybe done a little bit of training before.
Yeah.
Somebody that's having trouble finding people for their trucking company, somebody that owns, logistics company that's finding it hard to find good drivers.
Right.
And what it allows them to do is open the school, generate a lot of income, and then really cherry pick the people that they want for their own company.
Right.
And, you find the students that are dedicated, and you find the students that are doing it because somebody told them to.
Right.
Our motto is we want to get 1 million people on the road to freedom. And it's really, the average person in the United States is making somewhere around 40,000, and the average person with a CDL is making well over 60,000.
Right.
So, you go to anywhere from a 4 to an 8 or 12-week program and give yourself a better than 50% raise. In almost every case, that's going to be life-changing.
Yeah. And this is the industry where, in Canada anyway, that pay equity is there. Women driving are making the same money as men doing the same job at a carrier. I would think for the most part. I know in Canada here, it's kind of every drivers are all making the same. So it's pay equity for a lot of people, and I know that's an issue for a lot of people as far as gender equality and stuff goes. So now, what type of investment are we looking into this? Because buying a truck is enough of an investment, and like you were saying, not everybody that's good in trucking is a good business operator or good business owner. So what kind of investment do we need to start a school? I'd imagine it'd be quite a bit.
It's not as bad as you might think.
Okay.
We are considered an affordable franchise in franchising. So our franchise fee is $50,000.
Okay.
You get a lot for that. Your territory is protected, so we are not going to put another franchise in where you're located.
Okay.
You're not going to be in competition with your same company. We give you a business coach. We call them a success coach that walks you through every process of the paperwork, how to fill it out, how to turn it in. Sometimes you're turning in paperwork to 3 different entities in a state.
Yeah.
The Bureau of Motor Vehicles, Department of Education, Department of Transportation. And it becomes a little daunting to do that by yourself. So if you have somebody with a roadmap that can walk you through, all the curriculum for the students, more importantly, a computer system where your students can log in, they can track their success, they can schedule their time when they come to school. So it takes scheduling out of the franchisee's hand and puts the onus on to the students that are coming.
Okay.
All the contracts are in place. If adjustments need to be made state by state to any of those, we've got that in place as well. It really, for that $50,000, you get a plug and play business.
Okay. So now for $50,000, though, I am sure I might be wrong, but I'm sure the truck is not included, and possibly even a building to run the school out of is not included. If that's extra, or how much ballpark would someone need to start one of these?
We don't retain any ownership in the company. So if you buy a franchise, you own 100% of the franchise. So we want you to be able to hire the people you want. We want you to be able to use the equipment that you want. We want you to be able to pick the location you want. And we can help with all those things. And we do, but we want to make sure that it's your business and you have it.
Right.
With that being said, and I will use fast food restaurants as sort of an analogy because it's something that people get, but you wouldn't buy a McDonald's franchise and only sell hot dogs.
Right.
So there are certain things that you have to have. And typically franchisees are going to start with 2 trucks, 1 manual and 1 automatic, 2 trailers, a bus, because we do offer class B CDL classes, a driving simulator, typically 1,500 square feet of office and classroom space to run the business. That needs to be outfitted as well with, computers and tablets and things for the students, and an acre to an acre and a half lot. An acre allows you to bring through probably anybody that you can imagine you need to bring through. That gives you plenty of space. And but an acre and a half allows you to expand once you get to that point. And the school and the lot don't have to be in the same place, just close to each other.
Okay.
That takes that limitation out. So you're really looking with that basic equipment in most states, you're looking at somewhere between 250 and 300,000.
Okay.
And if you want to scale larger, you certainly can. We can help you scale larger. It might be as much as 450 if you want to start with, say, 4 to 5 trucks, and 2 simulators. And, I have an owner in the Florida Panhandle who decided to purchase a piece of property as an investment because it already was paved and already had the building on it.
Right.
So he's investing a little bit more, but I have other people that have decided to lease trucks and lease the property, and they're going to be able to move forward a lot less. But that gives you a good ballpark. Typically, if you've got, between 250 and 350,000, you're going to be really comfortable.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So now, just give us an idea. And I know you mentioned a couple of people earlier, and I don't know any names, but what type of people are going through this process? Is this carriers looking to add a school onto their existing business? Is this somebody was a driver trainer before and says, "Hey, I think I'm good at this. I'd like to own a school"? Who have you been seeing look interested in these franchises, without naming names, of course, or anything like that?
Yeah. I'll sort of go through our ownership, and it'll give you a good idea. The fellows in Portland own a big logistics company, and they were having trouble finding drivers. They actually had to make an adjustment to their business because of that. And so they decided to move forward. They've got that area around Portland, Portland, Oregon. The family that's moving forward in Gary, Indiana, is of Hispanic descent. They own a trucking company and several other businesses. And really, they had a lot and a building and trucks that they were not able to utilize. And they came and talked to us and decided to move forward. The fella in Dallas, he actually owns 2 schools, and he's moving through getting his paperwork done. He owns a logistics company and a bunch of 7-Elevens. The fellows in the Florida Panhandle had a bunch of car washes and quick lube locations that they sold during the pandemic.
Right.
And so they were flushed and wanted to get into another business. And one of them had his CDL and had been doing that for a while.
Right.
The couple in Atlanta owned a small trucking company and based in Michigan. And so they're splitting their time between Michigan and Atlanta, and wanted to be centralized. So Atlanta it has a lot less lake effect snow.
Yeah.
The lady who's moving forward in South Carolina owns a driver's ed school.
Right.
And decided to diversify and add a little bit more to it. She tried for 2 years to get the paperwork completed, and the state kept sending it back.
Okay.
So she came to us asking for help and is moving forward.
Okay. Okay, so you got some good. Those are good ideas, and those make sense for a lot of businesses and stuff doing that. What's the take now? A lot of people are kind of leery of a school that's attached to a company. They're thinking, they're just washing them through for recruiting or whatever. What kind of guidelines, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but is there any issues with that as far as some of these that are setting them up as part of their business? Does that hurt your name, their name, anything like that?
And again, I use McDonald's. You wouldn't buy a McDonald's franchise and open it on the corner as Bruce's Burger Joint.
No, you wouldn't.
It's we have an incredible reputation. Although we're a newer franchise, we do have, like I said, 13 locations that are either set up or in the process of getting set up. We've had people come in, I believe it's 46 states have, from California and Washington and Alaska, have come to New Jersey to go to our school because of the reputation we have.
Okay.
The quality of the education, the concern that we have. I was looking at numbers from a location in Jackson, and in the last 3 months, I think they've had maybe 2 people not pass the first time they took the test.
Wow.
And that's probably 100 people taking the test. So don't quote me on that. Yeah. But, the fact is in the States, you have to say things verbatim. And if you don't, you don't pass.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emphasis on things like that, making sure that, because you can't get a job as a driver if you don't have a CDL, and you can't get a CDL unless you can pass the test.
Right. What happens if one of your franchisees are not doing things properly and bring down the name for? And I know that, in the world, that's why a lot of people get into franchises, so that things are done the same and you don't have to worry about that. But that does happen. Do you have the kind of, I mean, you said you didn't really have an ownership once they take it over, but do you have the power to shut them down, correct the issues, whatever, if they're not doing things appropriately?
It isn't so much a shutdown, it's a retrain.
Right.
The thing is, with our owners, we have a great relationship. We do not accept everybody as an owner.
Right.
So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I've got some great ideas and I'm going to do things a lot differently than you guys, they cannot become an owner with us.
Right.
We do things the right way.
Yeah.
That's something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
We do things the right way for our students. We do things the right way for the owners, and we do things the right way as a franchisor. So really, that starts with my first conversation with people.
Right.
I say right up front, look, this is, trucking, you don't know schools.
Right.
We know schools, trucking. You have a huge leg up on anybody else that's looking at this because you understand the industry,
right,
and you can help your students with that. But we really want you to understand that you don't know how to run a CDL school, and we're here to train you how to do that, train your employees how to do that, so that you're running it. And then our CEO, Jonathan, also has a mentoring program.
Okay.
For owners, and he meets with them at least monthly and talks to them about certain key predictive indexes they need to watch, teaches the owners that they can use the system we have in place and actually break it all the way down to individual employees,
right,
to see who's performing and who's not. You can identify where they're not performing and retrain them on that. So, we're here to develop owners who can then develop their employees, who can then teach people how to come into a CDL school, get their license, and get on the road to freedom.
Okay, very cool. Well, you mentioned criteria. What criteria does someone need to meet? I know there's the $250,000 or equivalent investment, however they're going to get that. What else do you look at, though, for somebody coming in? Just the general stuff.
Really, somebody that wants to help people.
Yep.
Wants to understand that I'm here to help them understand the business. With a franchise, there's a thing called a franchise disclosure document. Mm-hmm. I've seen them. The length of ours is about 200 pages, and it contains all the details of the franchise. And I've seen them several thousand pages. Those frighten me.
100 pages frightens me.
It's why I don't open a chain restaurant. But really, my first conversation with somebody is finding out why they want to do this, what their motivation is, and we want to make sure they've got good intentions. You can make a lot of money doing this. You can help a lot of people doing this. For us, the most important thing is helping people. And if you help people, the money will come. We want to make sure they're coachable, so they understand that we want the people on the West Coast and in the Central and in the West. We want those students to have the same experience. And that's important. We go through the disclosure document, and I've spent hours and hours going through with people because they want to have a really grand understanding of it. When people say, "Yeah, I skimmed it, I understand it," I don't know. Skim a 200-page document and understand it.
No. Sounds good. So are you guys in just the United States, or are you in Canada too? I'm in Canada primarily, and I know I work with a lot of the schools up here.
We are. We're a newer franchise. Like I said, it's been about a year and a half. The projected growth was to be at 6 locations by the end of 2023, and we were at 12.
Right.
We're now at 13. I'll have at least 3 more set by the end of February. Our goal is to basically be at 35 by the end of this year.
Wow.
And probably 65 by the end of next.
Wow.
It's a big country.
Yep.
And right now where we are approved in the U.S., what we have to do and what I've talked to Jonathan about is making sure that we can move into Canada and also into Mexico.
Okay.
The schools that we have open are certainly bilingual.
Right.
The school in Linden, I think the employees probably speak about 6 different languages.
Okay.
Clearly we recommend that that's the case. And then there's local areas. The fellow that's open in Brooklyn speaks American English. He speaks Georgian. He speaks Russian.
Right.
And there's a big population center around there that speaks Georgian and Russian. So it's going to be great for that community. The people in Gary, Indiana are of Mexican descent. They all speak Spanish. So, and there's a large Spanish community there around Eastern Chicago and Gary. So they'll be able to service that community. Same thing in Florida and Atlanta. So we want to make sure that's in place. Jonathan and I have talked extensively about getting approved in Canada, and that's something that we'd both like to see happen. But we're at the beginning stages of that.
Yeah. Everything takes time. As long as we're doing it properly, because we don't need more incidents on the road. We have a lot of immigrants that come to Canada, and they're more than welcome. We do need them, but some of them don't realize we're not driving like we are in India. We're driving like we are in North America. We need to get that mentality across, and hopefully your school's doing that, because that's a message we all need to do to get people to drive safer on the roadways.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's where we are. So thank you for your time. Where do we learn more about you, the school, John, and franchising and all that stuff? Where would you like people to go to follow you guys?
Yeah, if you're interested in franchising, you can go to our website, which is cdldrivingacademy.com. There's a form there that you can fill out. Again, it's cdldrivingacademy.com. You can call me directly at 908-864-5972. And if you're interested in going to school, you can go to the same website, cdldrivingacademy.com, and find the school that's closest to you. You can also see a list of schools that we're getting ready to open. And if you're in the New Jersey area, you can reach out directly at 908-525-3609. And that rings right to the school in Linden, and they can direct you to the closest place to you.
I guess one other thought that I had is, and I'm from a truck driver standpoint. We deal with the owner-operated truck drivers. If I had 5 of my closest training buddies and we said, hey, let's open a school together and pooled our money to get that qualifying money that we would need, do you have to be an entity to? How would that work? I guess we'd form a company and then we could register. Could one person register with other investors? I don't know what your feelings are on that. I don't know.
Yeah. So yes, first you want to set up an LLC, and then you're doing business as is going to be Driving Academy,
right? Because
you want to take advantage of that reputation. The biggest thing, if there are partners in business, is who is to harken back to George Bush, who's the decider?
Right.
Who's going to be the tiebreaker? If you've got 4 owners and 2 want to do this and 2 want to do that, who's going to be in charge?
Right.
Who's going to do what? Because I don't know if you've ever had a business partner, but typically the one that does 20% of the work wants 50% of the money.
I'll leave that alone because my business partner is my wife, and I like to live indoors. So we'll leave that alone, John, for this one.
So you're the 20%.
You got it, man.
Yeah. And so division of labor is important for business partners. Typically I encourage couples to go into the business.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say is, who's going to be in charge?
Yeah. And
typically they look at each other and smile, and I go, I'm not asking you to answer that now. I'm asking you to have a conversation about it. about half say, "Oh, we've already decided she's in charge,"
Yeah.
and half say, "We haven't talked about that. We need to."
Yeah.
So really, I've had owners come in with investors that are backing them. Typically, the investors are going to be silent, and depending on the investment that's being put in, and they can have their own side agreement as to how investments are paid back, whether it's ongoing or short term.
Yep.
And we can help owners, decide the best way to do that. But ultimately, again, it's your business. We want you to set it up the way you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically you're looking at an individual or a family that's doing it, or people that have been in business before that understand that hierarchy. But hierarchy is important.
Yep.
And who's going to be the ultimate decision maker is important.
Yeah, on our business, it says it's me, but I don't always believe it. So, I'll just say that.
I get that.
Anyway, John, thank you for your time. It's been absolutely a pleasure talking with you. Good luck. I asked that last question because I think there's a lot of people that are looking for their future. They've kind of gotten tired of the seat or whatever, and they want to move into something else. And maybe this is an option for some of them that hadn't thought of starting a school or something along that line. So
sure. And that's, we don't offer direct financing, but I have a company that I've worked with for a very long time. It's a funding company based out of California. And they've been able to help people find funding for the business that never thought that they were going to qualify for loans or anything. And they've got options everywhere from business and personal loans, IRA, 401k, rollovers, no interest, low interest credit cards. They work with a hedge fund. So they've probably got an option. They're not part of our company.
Right.
We aren't part of theirs. We don't take money from them. There's no kickbacks or commissions that we get. So we have the moral high ground to recommend them.
Yeah.
It's a completely separate entity, but I wanted to make sure that for those people, because let's face it, not many people have $250,000 sitting in a coffee can.
No. If you do, I'll buy your coffee.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We'll have links in the show notes for everybody. Thank you again for your time today. It's been absolutely wonderful talking with you, and good luck with the program. That's ambitious, getting to 65 over the next year or so. So that's good luck with that.
Yeah,
I hope it works.
We'll get there. We'll get there quick.
I know you will, for sure.
Right.
Thanks again, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Bruce.
School here in Ontario truck driving school. That's right. Building modernized 1978. 9 locations throughout Ontario, and they are one of the leaders in truck driver training. They're part of a group of associations, and they've got following courses. They've got everything from heavy equipment to truck driver to bus to F license. If you want to learn ambulance or something, you can do that too. They got it all for you right there. And you don't have to go if you go to a location close to your home. So check them out at OTDS.com. And make sure you tell them I sent you because they're a really good organization. That was such a good interview with John. I did not know that franchising for skills was available. I think that's really the big thing, and for you may want to look into that. I think more importantly for that interview was, are you the type of person that is going to do this for the last thing we need, folks, is somebody else coming into the industry to do things the wrong way. And what I like about John is I feel a little about John other than the interview, but what I found was I feel that there's the kind of schools that are trying to do things the right way, and that's what we need in this industry. We need to make this industry better. I've been in this industry my whole life, and I want it to be a good industry for the future too. So check them out. Check them out if you want more information. Again, you probably got about $250,000 you got to put up to do that, but you don't know. Some people have that in their back pocket. Certainly don't. Hey, before we go through that, though, let's talk about Driver Verify. Driver Verify, they are a online profile. Have you ever tried to make an online profile? Have you ever tried to get employment records from
more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit thelifeandallpodcast.com. Be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.